welcome to another very special bonus episode of How We Made Your Mother. The bonus episodes we are referring to as general questions. General questions.
There's always a delay. I don't know what
always
happens.
a delay. We can't sync this. We have to get in person and do this. I'm joined as ever by my friend Craig Thomas. Hello, Craig.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Craig co-created this show, How I Met Your Mother, with our buddy Carter Bays, and we're answering all the general questions about episode 6, the Slutty Pumpkin. So Alek, hello, Alek Lev, our co-producer, or
hello,
our producer
Alek.
And friend. What do you got for us? What did the listeners want to know about?
The listeners, I would call these more broad questions about the writing of it. Obviously, let's just go ahead and respect the fact that 30 people just kind of wanted basic origin stories here. You know, it was not a Chiquita banana costume. It was not a plum. It was a pumpkin. Where did this come from? But I'll broaden out a little bit into the writer's mind here. So you kind of have the ideas of, let's do a Halloween show. You have the Ted is going to doggedly, stay at this party because of this girl. And then you have a Slutty Pumpkin. Do you remember kind of what influenced what came first? What was the inspiration for the whole thing?
I mean, for sure, the inspiration was let's rip off It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. For sure. For sure, it was that. And then it had to be a pumpkin. So that decision was made for us when we decided to ruthlessly rip off Charles Schultz. But yeah, it was really that. It was really from that initial idea. And just the thought, this is an episode about Ted having faith and Ted sort of doing this ritual each year and a way to get to know Ted better. But it was Peanut. We have Peanut to thank.
It's also like, did you ever read Craig Jeff Tweedy's book, How to Write a Great Song?
I own it and have not read it.
Yeah,
but now
he has this writing exercise where he says, like, I forget what he calls it, but he says, like, write down like 10 baseball terms and then write down 10 adjectives. So you end up with like lovely steel or like frightful bases or something like that, where you're trying to like put weird words together that trip something like kind of delightful in your head. And I feel like Slutty Pumpkin is one of those.
It's very satisfying to say.
It's satisfying, but it also, you go, how does a pumpkin get slutty? Like what?
Yeah, what's happening?
What's
with
the
this
mechanics
pumpkin?
Involved in a pumpkin being slutty? But also, Barney's theory about like everything gets slutified. Is that would be the word?
Yeah, I think that's what he says, more or less. Yeah.
Oh, I'm reading this Melissa Febos book, who's a great writer, called Girlhood, where she talks about a slut, the origins of the word slut. I think it used to be like about housekeeping. Like when things were like left around, your house was really slutty when it was messy. And then it morphed. Crazy. Yeah, and then it morphed into this kind of thing. So anyway, that's just what I'm reading lately.
I like it. It's very poetic. It is. There's something about that phrase "slutty pumpkin." It's sort of like this.
It's very sticky. It sticks in your head.
It is.
Yeah.
It's sticky. That slutty pumpkin. We're just making it even more horrible sounding the more that we say. But it definitely came from Peanuts and just loving. It was a bunch of writers in a room that all grew up watching It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which I think that always used to air on CBS. If I'm remembering my childhood correctly, so we thought we're on CBS. We will own this. We'll just be part of that CBS Halloween tradition. And it was just our love letter to that. And Linus and Ted, there's such a comparison to the sort of hopefulness of those two characters.
It also reminds me, Craig, it makes me think that you guys were big fans of this holiday classic, but in your love of it and your homage to a holiday classic, you made another holiday classic, right? Like it's like a remix or a reconceiving of something that you put your own stamp on and it becomes its own thing, right? It's like Shakespeare like stole all these plots and updated them and made them his own,
Like if Kid Rock had made good songs. That sort of thing. Sorry. Sorry, Kid Rock. You can take the head. No, that's thrilling. We loved a good Halloween episode because it's it gives you something to start with. You're in a world to begin with. It's not from a standing start. You're in some goodwill. People are just excited. Like, today's Halloween or more or less Halloween, and we're seeing this TV show about it. There's just something, you're off to the races. We never shied away from. I missed it whenever we didn't do a Halloween.
And also there's weird stuff that happens when people put on costumes and your clown can come out, or your demons can come out, or what was one of my favorite, we'll get to this obviously, but one of my favorite Halloween gags on the show was when they were going to go as the Breakfast Club, but everyone dressed up as Judd Nelson. Oh my God.
That's one of my favorite jokes, I think, in the entire series.
It's such a quick, funny joke. And it's such a kind of just for Gen Xers,
Yeah.
Such a good joke.
Yeah, there's an age cutoff for that joke, but if you're in the right zone, you love that joke.
You've covered a bunch of things. I just want to shout out some of our listeners here. Danny Hagney asked, what is the inspiration for the Slutty Pumpkin? And Gabe Silva, said, can you explain the connection or influence of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, on this episode? So there you go. And then also, Nora Quintanar asked, can you talk about the challenge of holiday-centered episodes and why or how you chose specific holidays to depict, like Halloween and Thanksgiving in particular?
Yeah, I would say something about that, which is just that you were so excited if you had a great idea for a Halloween episode or a Thanksgiving episode or a Christmas episode. But if you didn't, it was very daunting. And that's why some years we did them and some years we didn't. It was like, because we did a couple good ones early. We did a couple really good holiday-themed episodes in the first couple seasons. And when it got a few in, and was like, we are not going to live up to our own. Not only are we going to not live up to the grand tradition of a Thanksgiving episode, we're not going to live up to the one we did a year ago. Then we just wouldn't do it because we were scared. We're like, we're gonna not clear our own bar. So it was both great if you could kind of use the momentum of a holiday to tell a story, and yet daunting if you didn't have a story that kind of was worthy of it. And that's probably, you can go year by year and see the ones where we clearly felt we didn't have a good enough idea.
This is just the actor perspective, but it also translates to the writers. You would do these holiday episodes and you would feel somewhat festive because in the fictional context, you were celebrating the holiday, but we were recording a Halloween episode in September, right?
Yeah.
And you do your Thanksgiving episode in October and you do your Christmas episode in November. So you're always like 6 weeks ahead of the holiday.
Yeah. It feels like the holiday already happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really funny. It's true. You feel like, you're sort of weirdly off kilter. You're living in your own universe where Christmas already happened. But there's something kind of great about that. Christmas, it would just set this tone of, it would get you in the spirit in November, and then that would sort of last. I always liked that. The whole set sort of felt Christmassy after that, even if it was like November 5th. I want to say one other thing, Alek, which is just, I think when you talked about the episode proper, the episode about this episode rather than this, I forgot to shout out, and just wanted to before I forget, Brenda Shea, who wrote this episode. Very funny writer, wrote on Him for a few seasons, went on to write for a bunch of other cool shows, and she wrote the Pixar movie Elemental. Really talented, cool, funny writer, and very much invented the drink, the Tootsie Roll, in this episode. And Alek, it looks like from the shocked expression of synergy on your face.
He's drunk on Tootsie Rolls. My God.
He's been knocking back Tootsie Rolls all day. I liked that. And people would write us. Well, first of all, this episode spawned a trillion Halloween costumes. And just to say this, even now, 10 years, 11 years after showing off the air, we get these costumes sent to us. People as Robin Sparkles, people as the Slutty Pumpkin, people as Ted's Hanging Chad. People make those homemade Hanging Chad outfits. I've seen so many, Josh. I hope you've seen those too. This past Halloween, someone sent me that they were going as that. And that's amazing that came from the episode. And also Brenda Shea, I know that her invention of that drink, I know that a lot of Him fans tried to mix that drink and I think said it was quite delicious. I have no excuse to make for myself that I've not yet tried that. I will go immediately and between this and the next episode recording, get super hammered and just see what happens.
The Hanging Chad, it could be argued the Hanging Chad costume is the only good thing to come out of Bush v. Gore circa 2000.
Do you know that moment in the episode where they're talking about like the political relevance of it, and they're like, it's a sad commentary that we no one remembers the Hanging Chad anymore, and then the parents
we revived it.
We revived it, and also look where we are now in modern politics. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
Let's go right into it. Sophia Gomez 1. Have you guys actually tried the Tootsie Roll drink in real life? Curious if it's good. Natalia, I can't do it.
Natalia? Just
maybe,
a pitch. Just a suggestion.
Natalia
I'm going to pitch the right way to say that name.
Nataliaie.
Oh, no, withdrawn.
Right.
I don't know what's
it
going
keeps
on.
going. Who invented the Tootsie Roll? And Amy wins. Who came up with the Tootsie Roll along with
Brenda
15
Shea.
other people? So
Brenda Shea, who often pointed out that her name sounded like the chorus of Cannonball by the Breeders. Brenda Shea. Anyway. I don't know what's happening. I drank a Tootsie Roll in between answers, but I don't know why I've never tried that drink. You think the writers, maybe one time that we did it in the writers' room. I think we did. I think Brenda invented it and we said, yeah, let's try it. And I've gotten a lot of good reports from people on the fans online who say they drink it every Halloween and it's great. So I think Brenda really did invent a cocktail.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
Well, Craig, I'm taking my guitar like a mythic traveling troubadour.
This is great. You're going to ride the rails?
I'm going to ride the rails from Brooklyn to Seattle. I hear it's a short trip on the rails.
Please pack your podcasting mic into your bindle stick because we got to still record a few of these.
Yeah, that's all I'm carrying. That's all I'm taking.
That's all you're taking? Just a guitar and a podcasting mic. Just a modern day troubadour. Amazing.
These are my two main gigs right now. I'm zipping down the West Coast. Then I'm going to do a swing through the Midwest. I got some dates in Nashville on the books. I'm doing the Franklin Theater. And then I'm doing the show at the Gibson Garage, which is super cool. Have you been to the Gibson Garage in Nashville?
No, I've never been to Nashville.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah.
Oh, my friend, you got to go to Nashville. You would love it.
Do you need a backup guitarist for the whole tour and I should just come on the tour?
You're a drummer.
I play some guitar. I play more guitar than drums these days. So you're not getting out of this. You're taking me as your guitar player.
Oh, Elliot's the drummer. You're the guitarist?
My son kicked me off the drums. He's very good.
Craig, this is now the third week in a row, I believe you've invited yourself to try to join me on my travels.
I think you just invited, rewind the tape. I think you invited me. I think somewhere in the middle of there, I heard an invitation.
No, I think the record will show that I did not. Are we not spending enough time together at this weekly?
No,
weekly
we're not.
jam?
This is 1 hour. This is an hour of our life.
Okay.
This tour sounds amazing. I counted the cities you said, and I realized that you're going to be gone at least 1 or 2 nights. And while you're gone, while I'm on
the rails,
while you're on the rails with the bindle stick, with the podcast mic and the guitar. As the sounds of the freight train lull you off to sleep and you finish that can of beans. When you're thinking back to your home that you left behind, what's happening? Are you doing anything at all with that home that you left behind?
No, I'm just liquidating my savings to ride the rails. I've made some poor decisions.
These are terrible decisions. You could be refilling those coffers, I dare say. I'm trying to be old timey, but by hosting your place on Airbnb while you're out there riding those rails and singing those songs and
you're right.
Words and the truth.
This is like Memento. Week to week, I forget that I have this.
You do. This is so weird. Weird. This is like a neurological exam that you're failing.
I gotta tattoo it on my body. What's the website? I'm gonna tattoo it.
Here it is. Well, I don't know if I have a website, but here's what I want to say to you now. There is a website. Ready? Here it is. I'm just going to spontaneously say this now. Josh, your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
Got it.
I know you're not going to remember. I'm going to have to tell you all over again next week. So let's just move on.
Josh, let me ask if you remember. So now again, we're on episode 7, trying to get into the mind of the actor back then. You are on this TV show. This is happening, and you get handed a script that's like a, it's very Ted heavy. It's also kind of a big grand Ted idea, right? I mean, I don't know if you could tell at the time, oh, this is going to be a big thing, but when you get a script like that, that's you heavy on a new show that you're on. Did that go, oh, I'm so excited. There's a big thing for Ted to do here.
Greg Malins, I think, said something to me early on. Was Greg on season 1 or did he come on season 2?
He came season 2. Greg Malins, really funny writer, executive producer from Friends, and came and was on How Much Mother starting in season 2.
I loved Greg. Greg, he had a bit of he was so young, but he had such like elder energy. And I think something about like having written on Friends for a lot of years gave him this kind of sitcom gravitas. And
big time.
He would tell me some things that were really calming. And I remember he said to me once, you can't worry about week to week, like whether you have a strong episode or good episode, or you got the good jokes or not good jokes. Like you just have to know that the vibe is good, like the show is working. And if a show runs long enough, everyone gets their moment in the sun, everyone gets their arcs, everyone gets their romances. You can see when, even like a show like Friends, you can see when they crack Joey and they like turn their attention to Joey more, right? And
Definitely.
Matt LeBlanc
Yeah.
like rose to the occasion, right? Like he wasn't just the
Yeah.
like side character. They like explored some more stuff with him. So, you know, I think you're always there's always a negotiation between being a team player and having your ego kind of throw a temper tantrum. I think that coming from the theater, I always looked at being a part of like an ensemble as an honorable thing. That's what I learned at NYU. It's what I learned in the theater, that even if you were the lead of the show, you were a part of a working organism, and everyone had their part to play. And maybe I'm making myself sound more magnanimous than I was, but I certainly, sometimes there'd be episodes I remember where I was a little confused. Matchmaker's one of them, right? Which we're going to talk about soon, but where I was a little confused until the end. Like Ted, you would often use Ted to land the plane, especially in early seasons, where he was the one who kind of like reminded people what we were doing here, reminded people what the stakes of the show were, reminded people that he was the faith keeper, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like in Slutty Pumpkin, there's just this classic great scene between Ted and Robin and the roof at the end. And I sometimes felt, so I felt like we hadn't quite discovered like Smarty Pants college Ted, right? At this point.
Yeah.
So Ted was more like, I thought he was really funny, but his comedic engine hadn't totally been found yet. But what had always been there from the start was his sincerity, his heart forward kind of Tedness. And I always felt like gratified when you guys went back to that well and used me in this very particular way, which you did in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, that roof scene at the end, I feel like kind of restates the premise of the entire series and why we're watching it and who Ted is in this really great way. Like when Ted says that line that I'm not going to butcher, I'm sure, but basically like, I know the Slutty Pumpkin's not going to walk through the door at 2:43 a.m., but this is as good a place as any to sit and wait, basically. And it's almost like an invitation to the viewer. Like, this is what this show is. We will be entertaining while you wait.
We're going to be drunk on a roof at 2:45. Come join us.
If you want to be drunk on a roof for 9 years with us, this is the place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who write questions that where they just do great little character summaries. We've read one or two of them before, and I kind of like to highlight them because people clearly did a lot of work to put this question together, which is nice. And so, yes, it's me _Justin says, this episode is probably the one that hooked me. Having listened to the podcast episode so far, it feels like this was one of those one-off episodes that encapsulates the whole series. Ted's constant optimism, Marshall and Lily's loving support, Barney's annoyance at said optimism, and Robin coming in at the end to be the centering point. In the moment when writing these episodes, do you have awareness of this, or am I just romanticizing the writing experience?
I think we had an awareness. I think we wanted this to be a Ted-defining episode and then a Robin-defining episode. It was the first episode where we kind of opened the hood of kind of Robin's insecurities and her self-doubt even. And the way Ted can kind of comfort her puts him in kind of a different like relationship to her. He's been seeking her out and kind of chasing her, and now he's comforting her. And she's even saying to him, yeah, you're a little crazy, but I kind of wish I had a little more of that crazy. And so that was, I think we had that premise. I think we thought, it's the Peanuts idea. We'll use the Peanuts kind of hook to show an episode where Ted seems crazy for having this faith the way that Linus does, but in the end, faith is a good thing. So I think that was like the through line the whole time.
Okay, just two more sort of small questions here, and we obviously know the answer to this, but you can talk a little bit about this. And Sabhar Walharashita asks, is the McLaren's bar based on a real bar?
McLaren's bar is totally based on a real bar, down to the design elements, down to the color of the booth, down to the huge murals on the wall, the color of the green lamps on the bar. And it was this bar that Carter and I spent a bunch of our early mid-20s going to, that was 2 blocks away from Late Show with David Letterman, where we worked and where the entire staff and crew of that show went out and got super drunk every Thursday night. And it was just a huge part of our 20s. And so McLaren's is a shout out to McGee's, still alive and kicking on 55th Street between Broadway and 8th, I believe. And it's kind of the How I Met Your Mother bar. They've very much leaned into it being the How I Met Your Mother bar. So if you're ever in New York, you can go there. You can probably drink a Tootsie Roll. I'm not sure exactly if it's a Tootsie Roll. I know they have some drinks called like Robin Sparkles and other things. The Minnesota Tidal Wave. And we've done some fan events there, and it gets crazy and packed, and it's great. So head up there if you're in NYC.
Josh, just maybe a time now, because in the early days of this podcast, many years ago, we talked about the idea of you at your age now, looking back at the character at that age then, and looking back at the portrayal of the character at that age, and Craig writing of an older character, looking back at his younger character. I just want to pause over this now and just, do you have thoughts now about Ted's optimism, whether it's too optimistic, not optimistic enough? Do you like where he's going? How do you feel about Ted as a human, as a 30-year-old human, as now Josh, a 50-year-old human?
Yeah, it's a great question. I look at him and I admire it. I think that it's kind of incredible to get to 27 or almost 30 and have that level of faith and naivete on some level. But I think that Ted, and not dissimilar for me, but in totally different ways, like life, it needed to tenderize him a bit. He needed to get heartbroken a little bit more. He needed to get scuffed up a little bit more. I think the best kind of optimism is not like a Pollyanna-ish denial of darkness or shadow, but one that actually incorporates it and says, life is hard, it'll knock you around. But also I do have faith. And I have faith, not just blind faith in some sort of like benevolent, hand that's going to swoop in and fix everything, but I have faith in myself. I have faith in myself that I have instincts. I've surrounded myself with good people. I believe, that the universe is not, that is a friendly place, as Einstein said. Our the only choice we have. That's the biggest question. Do we think the universe is friendly or not? And so I think that it's like adorable, and I don't mean that in like a condescending way. Like there is something adorable about his naive optimism, but I also can see up ahead, like there's some rapids up ahead for him that he's going to have to navigate. And I imagine it's not unlike being a parent, where you look at your kid and you want to create an incredibly safe world for them, and you drop them off at college or they go to their first job or whatever, and like you're not going to be able to childproof the world for them. Like,
yeah,
did we talk, Craig, about, I might have told you, but Gary Goldman has a great joke. Millennials, like everyone gets a trophy, and people say, well, if everyone gets a trophy, how are they going to learn how to fail? And he says, oh, I don't know, have you ever heard of life? Just like life
It'll get you
no matter how kind of bubble wrapped you are as a young person. So I think that I really, I love Nick Cave so much because he's had so much loss in his life, and he's had so much hardship, and he's incredibly magnanimous and thoughtful and compassionate and tender, because I think the hardness of life can either tender us or harden us. And and I choose, my hope is that it tenderizes me. But the temptation to harden up and get tougher and get a little folded armed and cynical is always there. The invitation's always there. So for me, Ted is just a reminder, like, in the last analysis, it's better to err on the side of faith.
I am guilty, please acquit me, all sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radner and Craig Thomas. The show is produced by me, Alek Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyurmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Read Craig Thomas's published prose at craigthomaswriter.com. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures, marketing provided by Tink Media. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you or just New York City?